Welcome to Politics Unplugged. I'm Ann Trujillo, and this week we are laser focused on the governor's race. Our current governor, John Hickenlooper, is term limited and will be leaving office at the end of the year. Coloradans have a big decision to make on November 6th. Will they choose another Democrat or pick a Republican? Something Colorado hasn't done since the late 90s. Well, just a few days ago, I moderated a debate between the two men currently fighting for that job, Republican Walker Stapleton and Democrat Jared Polis. The candidates don't agree on a lot, but they do see eye to eye on one issue.
How close would you like to see drilling take place near your home in Greenwood Village?
Both candidates say they'd vote no on Prop 112, a plan to set back new oil and gas wells further from homes and schools.
It's gone from 100 to 300 to 500 and now 1,000 for high-density areas, and I think it's been a workable bipartisan.
What's reasonable to you? Say
exactly where it is right now.
Polis is also opposed to 112. However, the Democratic Party is split on the issue.
In these campaigns, we tell people what we think. I don't support 112, but if it passes, that's the will of the people, and it's the job of a governor to enforce the will of the people.
Education funding has been a tricky one to solve in the state of Colorado. In 2 weeks, dozens of communities will be voting on mill levies or bond issues to provide extra money to schools. Stapleton says we need more transparency when it comes to school district spending, while Polis is in favor of local mill levies.
Some school districts really don't have any transparency at all, and every parent out there should be able to find out why money that they are spending is not getting into the classroom.
I've supported. And yes, there's a state role, not only in making sure we invest in our schools, but making sure that money actually reaches the classroom and also addresses some of the great funding disparities across our state.
Another issue, paying to fix our roads. Polis is afraid Prop 109 would put Colorado in debt.
I think it's very dangerous to put our state $3 billion in debt, which 109 would do. I confidently agree with the principle that if you're going to build roads, you got to pay for them, and I believe that we need to do it in a fiscally responsible way.
Stapleton says he'd like Colorado to fix roads without raising taxes and would be interested in taxing sports betting instead.
The American Gaming Commission has said it's a $150 billion business. It's coming to Colorado. I think it can be $1 billion. I am for taxing it at 15%.
Then it's a question a lot of you ask, so we got the answer. Why did Jared Polis change his name? A PAC supporting Walker Stapleton has been running ads saying he changed it, stemming from a 1999 incident involving a co-worker. Polis debunked that.
I think it's bizarre that anybody would attack somebody for a personal decision like that to honor your mother's maiden name.
All right, so joining us today are Democratic strategist Steve Welchert and political commentator Krista Kafer. So, you two, how did the candidates do the other night?
I thought they both brought their A game, especially Walker Stapleton. I thought he was sharp. He made some nice distinctions, pointed out that his opponent's plans are unaffordable for the state of Colorado. No dumb jokes. I think he did an exceptional job. We'll see how it goes and if it plays out well.
Steve?
I think the tone and tenor of that debate showed you what their internal polling is showing, which is that Stapleton's behind, Polis is ahead. Polis came off, I think, as a cooler candidate, more at ease with the facts, more at ease with the situation. Walker was always on the aggressive, always pushing forward. And poor Walker Stapleton, he has kind of a Richard Nixon problem. He just can't stop sweating, and that's not doesn't make for great TV.
Don't hold that against him, though.
Because this race has gotten pretty nasty, though, really, when you think about it, and not necessarily because of the candidates' campaigns, correct?
That's true. I think the outside ads in particular have been bad. And I think about this stupid thing against Congressman Polis about the incident when he was 23, when he pushed an employee to keep her from stealing something from the office. I think a lot of hay's been made out of that, and I think it's unfortunate because it's not fair.
Do you think and you're a Republican, do you think they've taken that too far?
I do. I do indeed. It's irrelevant. What is relevant is that socialized medicine would be a bad thing for Colorado. Congressman Polis's plans for energy development are untenable. Those are the things that should be focused on, not something that happened a long time ago that frankly looks justified.
Well, the Stapleton campaign was trying to take advantage of kind of the Me Too movement and what's going on with women in our society in general, but it was a provably false allegation, and it was from the very beginning. And this station, other stations have all come out and said, look, this is not an accurate ad. And I think that's backfired and boomeranged against the Stapleton team. Because
you mentioned the polls. I mean, the latest Magellan poll has Polis up 7 points. A CU poll has Polis up.
Yeah.
Is this race done?
I don't think it's done, and that's because there's still a group of undecided people, and I think after a strong debate like that, Walker Stapleton could pick up some support. I still think he's in the game. I still think anything could happen in a couple of weeks.
Look, voters are going to vote next weekend, obviously, after Halloween for sure. And so things are in play still. But if you look at the voter turnout so far, the Democrats are ahead of their projections in 2014. Republicans have a lead today, but as a 14 projection, Democrats are ahead of where they were. And so they always make up more ground in the last few days because they're later voters. And so it's a tougher game for Stapleton.
So we shouldn't interpret anything by those numbers that more Republicans have voted so far?
Not today, no.
We'll see what it looks like in a week.
Yeah, definitely. What does Walker Stapleton need to do to turn those numbers around from the polls?
Well, I think he needs to make it clear that Congressman Polis's plans are just not right for Colorado. They'd be right for California, they might be right for Boulder, but they're not right for our state. Our state rejected socialized medicine. It's not something that we want, something that if a lot of us, I think, frankly, would leave the state. I've got pre-existing conditions. I couldn't afford to live under that system. I've seen what it does to people. I think if he can make the case that Congressman Polis is not right for Colorado, he's right for Boulder, I think he can pull it out.
And the irony here is that while Polis may be from Boulder and may be more progressive on a lot of issues, he's really a libertarian. And that's what's made a tough argument for Stapleton to make. He's been a libertarian on guns and on marijuana and on a variety of topics, and so he's not such an easy target all the time to hit.
Does he coast now? What does he do for this last week
I think
or so?
you're going to see the Democrats do what they've often done, which is kind of have a big caravan, go out and have a bus tour. They've already done a little bit of that last week. They'll do more of it next week. It'll be all retail politics where you're really going to do it hand-to-hand combat, if you will, and shaking hands, talking to people, and trying to get people's votes in the mail.
Yeah, maybe some Hollywood people, maybe Bernie will come back.
Well, did it help that Bernie Sanders was here?
I think it's a good fit.
Does it matter?
Nice shot. Well, here's the kicker. Donald Trump's not been here, not coming here, because they know that doesn't work in Colorado either. So it kind of cuts both ways.
Well, and even when Mike Pence was here, the two didn't meet, Pence and Stapleton.
No public events for Mike Pence in Colorado. And there's a reason.
What does that mean?
I think it's independence. I think he wants to show that he's independent. Although he has publicly endorsed, he being Walker Stapleton, has publicly endorsed President Trump, but perhaps the presence of the Trump team would not be helpful.
It's an albatross around his neck. Make no mistake. If they thought it was an advantage, they'd have him here campaigning for him. He's campaigning in Montana 5 times in the last 2 months. So it's not a hard jump to come down here to Colorado. Okay,
so we know immigration and asylum are big topics in Colorado and across the nation right now. So I asked the candidates their positions on these topics. So let's listen.
A caravan of people from Central America is heading to the U.S. seeking asylum. The president tweeted yesterday the situation is a national emergency and he's alerted Border Patrol and the military. If you were to become governor and that caravan arrived in Colorado, would they be welcome here? Mr. Stapleton.
No, because I would enhance border security, and I was very disappointed when Congressman Polis refused to take a vote supporting ICE. He would like to defund ICE. I would like ICE to do its job and make sure that we have border security. It's not just President Trump. Before President Trump, President Bush sent troops to the border. President Obama sent troops to the border. We have lived in the state of Colorado with the federal government's failure to solve our immigration problems. Congressman Polis has been in Congress for 10 years. There's plenty of blame to go around for both parties. But we need border security. We need border security so that people that are contributing to the fabric of Colorado lives, from our agriculture industry to our restaurants, can continue to do so. And I've also talked about how I disagree with the Trump administration when it comes to temporary visas for agricultural workers and the people that work our ski industry. But we need border security, and we need it now more than ever. We have an opioids crisis of opioids coming from Mexico that is contributing to appalling rates of student suicide and drug problems.
Thank you, Mr. Polis.
You know, there is a national emergency, but it's an emergency of character. It's an emergency when a 2-year-old child is ripped from their mother's arms and sent thousands of miles away. It's not who we are as a nation. Walker Stapleton has said he would send the Colorado National Guard to the border to participate in family separation. I would continue Governor Hickenlooper's executive order and seek to put it into law that we would use no taxpayer resources in Colorado to separate families. We are a compassionate nation. We're a nation of laws, and we're a nation of immigrants, and we need to reconcile those two. I think we need to do a better job making sure that we vet people that are coming to our shores. In the case of the caravan, of course, there might be a few people that are part of that caravan that will gain refugee status. Many will be sent back because they're illegally entering the country. I think we need to do a better job as a state and as a nation, making sure that we reflect our laws as a welcoming people and do what we can to accommodate the failure of the federal government to fix our broken immigration system.
All right, so two very different answers. Were you satisfied with their answers?
Well, I noticed you guys had to use that ding button an awful lot during that debate because they both kept going long.
Yes.
Walker Stapleton wanted it both ways, right? He wants to have, workers for the agriculture industry and for the ski industry, but doesn't want to see anybody come across the border. I'm not sure how he knows how they got here otherwise. But Polis's answer is the answer that serves Colorado and the answer that Coloradans like best. And I think that's the right answer.
Because of the compassion piece?
Because of the compassion piece. And Polis said, look, not everyone's going to get in. But I think you have to evaluate all these people individually and say, what is your situation? Because most of them are fleeing persecution, perhaps murder and death. And so you have to evaluate that. Whether they're boat people from Cuba or folks coming in a caravan from Honduras or someplace, you have to evaluate why people are leaving where they're at. They're not just flowing here because they're all carrying drugs.
Yeah, but a lot of them are economic migrants. And if we open the door to economic migrants and say that you don't have to go through the process, you can skip the line, you can jump ahead, come into this country and get a job, that's not fair to those that are waiting in line. And it's not fair to true asylees and true refugees. I have a friend who's an asylee who came here because she would be killed or imprisoned by her own country. These folks, I understand why they're leaving their country. It's poor. It's a difficult place, but it's not the same thing, and you end up eroding support for the asylee and refugee program.
But how do you know that? I mean, there are gangs and drugs.
Yeah, they should be vetted, definitely. They should definitely be vetted.
So were you happy with Walker Stapleton's response to that question?
Well, I think he gave the impression that he would vet them, but I think if there are a lot of those folks are economic migrants, and based on my reading, a lot of them are, they can't come in. They can't come in this way. You can't jump the line.
I didn't hear him say he would vet them. I heard him say no. They're not going to be allowed in, period. He'll send National Guard troops down there to help. So I think it's a very different answer from Jared Polis's.
Well, we're going to talk a lot more about the debate the other night, and we'll be right back.
I know.
And welcome back to our gubernatorial debate. We want to start this second portion of our debate with a series of yes or no questions. And we are asking that you really do limit your question or your answers to a yes or no. And we will dive deeper into some of these topics a little bit later on. But first, we want to start with housing prices. With those skyrocketing across our state, do you believe state government should play a role in keeping them under control? Mr. Polis.
The state has a role in affordable housing, absolutely.
Treasurer Stapleton?
Not in price fixing, but yes, in finding a solution for more affordable housing, absolutely.
Do you believe the Broncos should fire head coach Vance Joseph?
Anyone, jump in.
Not yet. Not yet.
It's a dangerous one to opine on. We need to change something up. How about that?
Chad Kelly, maybe.
Let's get our running game going.
Okay, let's move on. Do you support changes to Tabor that would relax revenue growth limits?
Yes.
No, absolutely not.
Do you think a $12 minimum wage is appropriate?
Yes.
Yes.
Should certain places like bars and clubs be exempt from Colorado's smoking ban so that people may smoke marijuana inside?
Well, you're getting pretty specific there, Ann. I'd have to see what that was. You're talking the public consumption of tobacco or marijuana or both or what?
Marijuana.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, it could be safer if people aren't always driving under the influence and there's a role for public consumption that's tightly regulated.
Mr. Stapleton?
No, I would veto that bill like Governor Hickenlooper chose to do.
Would you support a proposal to extend Colorado's College Opportunity Fund to DACA students?
Yes.
No.
Would you sign a law to repeal the death penalty?
Yes.
No.
90 minutes, I needed a prod, right? Because but those are tough questions under hot lights for 90 minutes. But how'd they do? And what do you expect for the next week or so?
I thought it was really interesting that Stapleton kept sitting back, letting Polis go first every time rather than alternating the answers. But I think they did a fine job on that whole piece, and that's the one that viewers like the most, of course, because it's kind of rapid fire and a little bit more fun. And the football question may get tougher by 4 o'clock tonight. So
I like the fact that there was a contrast, and I don't agree with Walker Stapleton or Jared Polis on everything, but I like the fact that there was a contrast there, and that kind of contrast is great for voters because they can say, hey, if you agree with this, this, and this, here's your guy. If you agree with this, this, and this, here's your guy. I think it was a good segment.
I think it gives some insight, at least, as to where they're leaning, where they're thinking. But all right, let's talk about the 6th congressional district race, because that is the race that people are talking about in Colorado right now. is Mike Kaufman at risk here of losing his seat?
You know, it's tough. He has held off other challengers, wonderful challengers, attractive, smart, well-spoken people in the past, whether it's the former Colorado Speaker of the House or Morgan Carroll. Really good candidates. This candidate also excellent in a lot of different ways, but he somehow has made up for it in the past with hard work and just getting out there and knowing the community, and I'm hoping that he pulls it out again because of that hard work and that knowledge and involvement with the community.
It seems that no one works harder at their district than Mike Kaufman, right?
There's an old saying in the Democratic Party, Mike Kaufman's never seen an Eritrean wedding or an Ethiopian funeral he hasn't been to. So he does work very hard. You saw it in some of his early ads, by the way. But I think, ironically, some of that work he's done, or some of that campaigning he's showing, maybe it's hurt his base. I think maybe the Trump base, particularly in Douglas County, maybe he's a little upset with him over some of that stuff. So we'll see.
But yeah, he's walking a fine line here, isn't he?
He really is.
It is tough, because what I love about Congressman Kaufman, I think I'm a 6th district person, is that he is tied into the community, including our refugees, our immigrants, the really wonderful, diverse area of Aurora. And I could see where, if you're kind of a hardcore Trump supporter, some of those folks may not want somebody like that in office.
But the 6th is an interesting district because there's plenty of Democrats in there, and Jason Crow is a formidable candidate.
What makes him different than the other 3 people that took him on recently, took on Kaufman recently, is that he doesn't have an elected official record, right? No voting record to go after. He's a decorated military veteran, unlike Mr. Kaufman, and he's an attractive guy, got a young family. He looks like that district, quite frankly, and certainly like the Highlands Ranch part and the Centennial part of that district. So he's a very different kind of candidate, and the Republicans just took their last $1 million out of the race. So for this last week of campaigning, Kaufman's going to be a real disadvantage on TV, and that's really going to hurt.
Although he does still have some of his own money, and he's still out there. Folks are on the ground. He has a lot of friends, a lot of supporters. They're out there walking the district.
So what is his messaging then for this this last week or so?
For Kaufman's or Crow's?
For Kaufman.
That's you.
Well, for Kaufman, I think he just has to show that he's worked hard and that he is a part of this district. He represents this district well, and frankly, Jason Crow's a little to the left of the district. He probably belongs somewhere else.
Steve?
Crow's already closing the message right now with the family ad he's got up right now with his kids, talking to Trump and talking about no party bosses. It's a very cute ad, and again, it plays to the families in Highlands Ranch and Centennial and other parts of that district where he looks like them.
So we have a minute left, so each of you 30 seconds. What should we be watching for election night? Any big upsets?
Well, turnout.
Changes?
I mean, turnout's going to be the key. I think so far we're on a similar pace we were in 2014, but the turnout model for the following week is really going to determine all these races. I think there'll be something for both parties to kind of look to and say, we had a good night nationally. I think in Colorado, though, it could be a pretty tough night for Republicans.
Well, it's a third, and a third in this state. So
right.
3rd Democrat, 3rd Republican, and 3rd Independent. I think how independents swing is important, and also turnout. So if you're Republican, get out there and get your ballot in.
Yep.
If you're a Democrat,
We've seen the
ads. Election day has changed. It's actually November 8th. So if you're a Democrat, feel free to take your time.
She's trouble.
She's big trouble.
All right. Krista Kay from Steve Welcher, thank you so much.
You put tricks in your Halloween candy, you do, don't you?
When do those kids show up?
Yeah, that's right.
Be right back.
November.
Welcome back. And while things between Walker Stapleton and Jared Polis did get a little heated during the debate Tuesday night, we also saw their softer side, specifically when they talked about family.
How do you practice empathy in your personal life? And we'll start with Treasurer Stapleton.
I practice empathy because of the many nonprofits that I've been involved with. I practice empathy with my kids every single day to tell them how to treat people with respect and dignity, and it's one of the characteristics that I think I'm most proud of in my 3 children. My 2 daughters are probably playing with slime now and wrecking our house, but they've learned how to approach every individual with dignity and respect, and I think that's something that I've always tried to do, and I think it's something that should be expected of people who want to seek public office.
Mr. Polis?
Well, you know, certainly in raising our 2 great kids, 7 and 4, and making sure that I'm always there to be a shoulder to cry on or somebody to talk to friends and family, calling and checking in with my mom every night, who I'm sure is watching this tonight. Hi, Mom, I'll call you after the debate. And really just making sure that on the human level I try to connect with those in our immediate circle to be of help and to be a resource for them. And of course, carrying over into public work, I've served on the boards of advocacy organizations for health care. I've started schools to serve kids that otherwise didn't have a school. And I'm really honored to have done that work, and I look forward to being a governor that can really identify with what a lot of Coloradans go through every day and help them not just get by, but thrive in our great state.
And by the way, if you missed the debate, you can watch it on the denverchannel.com, Roku, YouTube, wherever you enjoy watching Denver 7 content.